Hello to all my hundreds and thousands of listeners out there. I'm starting out with reading you something. The hare laughed at the tortoise's feet, but the tortoise declared, "I will beat you in a race." The hare replied, "Those are just words. Race with me and you'll see. Who will mark out the track and serve as our umpire?" The fox replied the tortoise, "Since she is honest and highly intelligent." When the time for the race had been decided upon, the tortoise did not delay, but immediately took off down the race course. The hare, however, lay down to take a nap, confident in the speed of his feet. Then, when the hare eventually made his way out to the finish line, he found that the tortoise had already won. You may have heard some version of this, but this is a quick summary of the famous Aesop fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. A slow turtle is tired of getting picked on by a fast rabbit, so he challenges him to a race. Halfway through the race, the rabbit takes a nap because he believes he has so much time before the turtle finishes. However, the rabbit sleeps too long and the turtle, moving at his slow and steady pace, wins the race. Of course, the fable is somewhat of an exaggeration, like fables often are, but the purpose is to demonstrate us a valuable lesson we can learn. And clearly, a tortoise would never win a race against a rabbit. It only won that race because the hare made a mistake. But there are several lessons I see we can draw from this fable. The topic of today's episode is your perceived limitations. This is the biggest lesson that I saw in this. There are others. Maybe there's the lesson of focusing on your goal and steadily going after it. I think there's also a lesson of humility in here. But again, the biggest one to me is that of perceived limitations. So often we think we cannot do certain things because we're lacking the right skills, attributes, features, whatever you can think of. And the tortoise is quite obviously much slower than the rabbit. But he didn't see that as a limitation. This is what's fascinating to me in the story. Instead, he saw he had a chance of winning this. Otherwise, he would have never challenged the rabbit. He saw that he would not compete with the rabbit in speed, but in attitude. To me, this is not a race about who runs faster. It's a race about who brings the right attitude to the game. And the attitude of the hare is quite obviously one of arrogance and a sense of superiority. Otherwise, he would have not allowed himself to take a nap. The tortoise, however, came with a disposition of zeal and perseverance in spite of the challenge. Had he focused on his limitation, which is his slowness, he would have not even started the race. But he focused instead on his dedication and commitment to hard work, and it paid off. And that to me is the lesson I want to transmit to you today. We all are clearly aware of our weaknesses. Sometimes they are just that, weaknesses, things we are not good at, but at other times they are true personal and or physical limitations. Maybe an obvious handicap we have, a disability, or a discomfort with certain things, such as the fear of speaking in public. But many times we create and self-impose limitations upon ourselves. We blow the weakness out of proportion and let it become a handicap. Or we let our disability define more areas of our life than necessary, holding us back intentionally. The limitations may be very real, don't get me wrong. I'm not downplaying them. The problem is not the limitation. Recall the tortoise. The slowness compared to the hare is a very real limitation. The problem is our worry, fear, or anxiety over a perceived outcome. And the outcome is often failure, or at least it is in our mind. And who wants to fail? Right, nobody. So we blow our fears out of proportion. We exaggerate and focus too much on our shortcomings because we don't want to fail. And that's why it's so hard for us to start something new. We take comfort in the things we know how to do because we know the result. When we don't know the result, our minds tend to overstate the negative over the positive. Take job search as an example. We read these page-long job descriptions and we zero in on the one requirement that we don't meet. And because of that, we often don't apply. Instead, we apply to the ones we meet, where we meet all the criteria and end up with another job that gets boring after 6 months and doesn't challenge us. What do you perceive as a weakness that is holding you back? The one that troubles many of us is that we don't think we deserve to live a fulfilled life. That's a huge one that hopefully you are slowly working through as you are listening to my podcast regularly. Because the journey back to yourself is all about discovering your full potential. Think of other areas, maybe minor and maybe related to the things you would really like to tackle or learn. Sports, public speaking, writing, maybe being more technology savvy, being more outgoing. Those are just a few examples I often hear when people start the sentence, I'm just not good at. We come to this conclusion often based on one negative experience. I remember in high school, a teacher made me speak in front of the whole school about something without giving me advance notice. She told me, it would be easy and you can do it, but I couldn't. I failed miserably. Ever since, I don't go in front of people without preparing. I could have interpreted that event as, I'm not good at public speaking. And many people do. Just because a few pieces of the puzzle might be missing, that doesn't mean we cannot complete it starting with a few other pieces. In essence, what stands in the way is our mind much more than the level of mastery of the skill itself. Recall the mindset of the turtle one more time. He had a mindset of focusing on his strengths, his dedication, and commitment. And using those, he accomplished an impossible goal. And so can you. Be clear about your limitations. Don't ignore them. But if they stand in the way of you getting to a certain goal, find a way to work around them. And that might be by utilizing your strengths. Sports, public speaking, writing, being technology savvy, being more outgoing, all of these can be accomplished in many ways and from many angles. Take small steps, but first, fix your mindset. Your perceived limitations only exist in your mind. If you really want something, you'll find a way to get there. Challenging your limitations can be scary. And yes, you probably feel discouraged at times. But if you feel drawn to doing something despite the challenges, your successes will be that much more exhilarating. We always have a choice. We can let our limitations stop us, or we can let them inspire us to greater heights of achievement and character. And I'm ending with a quote from Og Mandino. Your only limitations are those you set up in your mind, or permit others to set up for you. Ponder this as you start your day today. Your perceived limitations. Are they perceived or are they true limitations? And are they standing in your way of getting something done? Much love. Until next time.